Hi, this is Kerby Anderson. Each day we take on the tough issues and provide a biblical perspective to them. The topics we cover are wide-ranging: apologetics, theology, prophecy, creation and evolution, intelligent design, marriage, family, child-rearing, the millennial generation, trends in society, politics, economics, business, religious liberty, the Constitution, public policy, foreign policy, military policy, tensions in the Middle East, abortion, homosexuality, pornography, sexual ethics, media, technology, history, and America's godly heritage. We talk about anything that affects your faith, your family, or your freedom. So don't go anywhere, because Point of View starts right now.
Across America, live. This is Point of View. And now, Kerby Anderson.
Thank you for joining me today here on Point of View. For the next 2 hours, we're going to be talking about the exceptional nature of America, but also some of the great challenges that we face as well. First hour, we talk with our good friend Alex McFarland. Here is an individual who is a speaker, writer, and advocate for Christian apologetics. He is also headlining and helping develop, as he has for many years, his annual Truth for a New Generation conference. We're going to be talking about that in just a minute. He is an individual that is also the director of the Center for Christian Worldview and Apologetics at North Greenville University, has a bachelor's degree from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, master's degree in Christian thought and apologetics from Liberty University, author of a lot of different books, 10 Issues That Divide Christians, one that we've talked about here before, the 21 Toughest Questions Your Kids Will Ask About Christianity. In addition, some of the other 10 books include things like 10 Questions Every Christian Must Answer, 10 Answers for Skeptics, 10 Answers for Atheists, and Alex McFarland, always great to have you on the program with us.
Well, thank you so much, Kerby. It's great to be on. I really, really appreciate it.
I'd like to spend a moment before we get into some of the things you've been writing about, talking about your conference, because I know that even though we're only just a few days away from it starting, you would still take late registrations. And if people wanted to have a chance to meet and to hear Ben Carson, Eric Metaxas, Todd Starnes, you still would be glad to register some people if they're interested in coming to your conference.
Our door is wide open, and walk-ins are welcome. I will tell you, we have, since I went into the office this morning, we've had over 100 people sign up today, and we checked about 2 weeks ago. We had attendees coming in from 28 U.S. states, and my only regret is that I don't have Kerby Anderson on the docket. We got to do that for next year.
All right, I'd be glad to do it. If I was a little closer to you and didn't have to do the show every day, I'd go, because you just got an incredible lineup here. And let's kind of talk about all of those. I just mentioned a few, of course, Ben Carson, and we're going to be quoting from him in just a minute. Eric Metaxas has been in studio with us many times before. Johnny Erickson Tata, Josh McDowell. Just saw Josh yesterday, interestingly enough. David Barton, Johnny Erickson Tata. Quite a number, but give us a rundown and what people will be able to hear and see if indeed they register.
Well, thanks. At the conference, there are what we call main sessions or plenary sessions where everybody's all together, but there are more than 24 breakout elective classes where youth can learn about sharing the gospel on their campus and their constitutional rights, and parents can learn about building a biblical worldview in the home, and college students can learn about defending the faith in the university environment and some of the unique issues that college students and young adults face. And we've got a track for pastors and youth pastors. Some of the best content might be in these elective classes from speakers that maybe aren't nationally famous. I've got two guys that are cutting edge in youth ministry, Andy Lawrenson and Ramon Sanchez, and they are on the cutting edge of reaching plurals with the gospel. And in addition to their seminars on youth ministry, they're going to be doing sessions for adults on how to develop lasting adult leadership within your church's youth ministry. And so, we've got, the big sessions with like the Colson Center on Life and Liberty, and with Josh McDowell and Sean McDowell and Gary Habermas and so many of them. But we try to provide within the elective classes, special topics that are, geared to different ages. But it all boils down, my heart is much like yours, Kerby. We want to see the gospel spread in our culture. We want to see the church equipped to defend the faith. And, we want to see, through biblical worldview, a spiritual awakening here in America and the West.
Well, again, Dr. Alex McFarland with us, and if you want to know a little bit more, we have a couple of links. First of all, a link to his website, alexmcfarland.com, and then if you would like to know more about Truth for a New Generation Conference, we have that too, or just go truthforanewgeneration.com. It's simpler. If you just click on the button, it will take you there. You'll find out about all the speakers, and those of you that are anywhere near South Carolina just need to go. And those of you that are a little further away, I think it'd be worth getting a plane flight because it is a veritable who's who. You've got some opportunities for people to spend in-depth time with individuals, a luncheon here and an evening there. And so I'll let you go to the website and find out a little bit more. But one of the things I did want to talk about, and this came out from one of your press releases sort of related to this, you said if 2014 were 1776, there would be no America. And I think we can obviously see that there are some great challenges that we face as Christians. But, Alex, for just a minute, explain what you mean by that. What has been missing in the leadership in the 21st century that existed in the leadership of the 18th century?
Well, great question. One of the things that really was kind of a spiritual and philosophical underpinning of the American Revolution, Kerby, was belief in natural law. And when we use phrases like natural law or moral absolutes or universal truth, we're talking about the belief that there are some things that are objectively right and some things that are objectively wrong. And there's a God who's the foundation of morality. And, that's why the Founding Fathers would write in, conscripting the Continental Army and breaking from Britain and declaring our independence. They said, appealing to God for the rectitude of our intentions. In other words, there is a moral law, and if we're in the wrong, we'll answer to God for it. But we believe that we have a just moral cause. And what I meant in the press release, if 2014 had been 1776, we wouldn't really have an America, is because nowadays we don't believe in natural law. We don't believe in moral absolutes anymore. And what I honestly believe, Kerby, is that we've got elected officials and judges and certainly educators that reject belief in moral absolutes, but we're to the point, probably, many of our leaders don't even know about natural law theory or belief in moral truth. And this relates to a lot of things, not only the marriage issue and homosexuality in the culture, not only rights of conviction and religious rights, but things like the supposed or alleged right of women to abort babies, and suddenly there are these assumed rights that people believe the Constitution protects. That really the U.S. Constitution is not going to supersede natural law. The American Constitution, which is based on natural law, is not going to protect or guarantee rights that go beyond that which is promised or inferred by natural law.
Let's take a break. Yeah, and let me take a break, and we'll come back and talk a little bit more about that, because one of the issues I want to get into is a statement made by one of the people headlining your conference, Truth for a New Generation, and that is Dr. Ben Carson, who basically made headlines recently by suggesting that we used to condemn ancient civilizations for practicing human sacrifice, and yet here in America we're doing some of the same. So we'll talk about that and continue our conversation today with Dr. Alex McFarland. And if you would like to join our conversation at any point, feel free to give us a call. We have links to his website and links to the conference. We'll continue our conversation with him right after this.
The Point of View Commentary with Kerby Anderson.
Should we as Christians be hopeful about the future? We should if we believe that God is still in control of the universe. Certainly we see many signs of decline and decay. Christians have been here before, and we need to remember that when the gospel is lived out in practice, it is the most powerful force in history, both by individuals and for societies. In his new book, Renaissance, Os Guinness reminds us that it is still possible for society to have redemption and renewal. The Christian faith is still relevant in our global world, and the key is for the people of God to be part of a movement that is led by the Spirit of God, which involves the people of God returning to the ways of God. He says we are truly at an Augustinian moment. Augustine died in North Africa with the Vandals at the gate. The Roman Empire was coming to an end of 800 years of dominance. We're living in a world where 500 years of Western dominance and Christian influence seem to be coming to an end. He believes we have two global tasks. First, to prepare the global South for the challenges they will face from the forces of development and modernization. The West has been through this, so we can warn them of the dangers. Second, we need to win back the Western world to Jesus. To be effective, we will have to do three things: engagement, discernment, and courage. We need to be engaged in society, in the world, but not of it. We also need great discernment and to act with courage. He believes the challenge will be to trust in God and His gospel and move out confidently into the world, living and working for a new Christian renaissance, and thus challenge the darkness with the hope of the Christian faith. He closes the book with an evangelical manifesto that provides specific action items related to how we should act and how we should view the world around us. Right thinking and right behavior will be key if we are to be faithful Christians in this century. I'm Kerby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
You're listening to Point of View, your listener-supported source for truth.
Privileged to have with us today Dr. Alex McFarland. Let me again commend to any of you that might want to attend his Truth for a New Generation conference this weekend. It would be a great opportunity for you to meet so many individuals we've interviewed on this program, to meet them face-to-face, get them to autograph a book, get to ask your favorite question or very troubling question that you might have, or get some advice. So certainly let me encourage you to find out a little bit more about that. And if you'd like to join us today, we are privileged to have with us an individual who is very good at answering these questions, has written quite a number of books. So at any point, feel free to give us a call, 1-800-351-1212. Alex, for a few more minutes, I want to kind of stay on this idea of if it were 2014, 1776, and the beginning of America might not have started at all. And one of the things that you are going to be hearing from this weekend is a great message by Dr. Ben Carson. But he said, interestingly enough, it's interesting, we sit around and call other ancient civilizations heathen because of human sacrifice, but aren't we really guilty of the same thing? His contention is that abortion is a great evil, and in some respects, we're guilty of the same thing as many of these pagan civilizations. What about your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree. We're aborting approximately 3,000 babies a day, and life is not sacred anymore. And so, we fault barbaric civilizations of times past, but we live in an age of barbarism. I mean, think about yesterday, the second beheading of an American citizen in just recent weeks. I've got to say this, none of us like violence and conflict and bloodshed, obviously. But, I think about when, FDR came on and said the Imperial Navy and Air Force of Japan has attacked Pearl Harbor, and my fellow Americans, we are at war. I mean, the beheading is an act of war. I would have thought that other presidents would have been in front of Congress right now to really ask for a declaration of war. And our aborting of so many thousands of babies every day. Kerby, as I'm sure you know, since 1973, the number of babies we've aborted would roughly equal Adolf Hitler times 10.
Yes.
And life has become cheap, expendable, such that, I mean, do you understand, in the Muslim lands, they're beheading children. This is documented. They're beheading American citizens. And our president is not acting. And as we've abdicated our role in the world as the defender of life, the world has become a more dangerous place. Liberals like to, sarcastically say, well, America shouldn't be the world's policeman. Yes, we should, because we were founded on belief in moral absolutes, the Judeo-Christian worldview, and for 2 centuries that was, as Justice Earl Warren of the Supreme Court said, quote, our guiding genius. Now, as we've abandoned our belief in and our adherence to the Judeo-Christian worldview, not only has our nation suffered, but really the welfare of our fellow humans is now more at risk than ever before. And so the barbaric civilizations of centuries past have nothing on us. I mean, really, we are every bit as culpable as any of the Rome or any of the civilizations of times past. I truly believe that.
Wow. Let's take some phone calls along the way. 1-800-351-1212. Alex McFarland right there, South Carolina, where the conference is going to take place. So we'll go to South Carolina first. Sharon, listening on WLPE. Sharon, thank you for joining us today here on Point of View.
Thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to comment on, too, that the terrorists should not be naive in thinking that Americans are shocked by beheadings, because every day, like the gentleman just said, 3,000 babies are torn limb from limb or have needles stuck into their brains. So, if that's not shocking to us, then a beheading, why would that be shocking?
Yeah, that's a good point.
We since 1973, we've killed 57 million babies. So the Nazis have no barbarism compared to what we are doing.
That's a good point.
And we do it in the name of giving the choice to women. That's no choice. To kill your baby. Why are so many women now that they are allowed to see the ultrasounds of the baby, so many women are choosing to keep that baby?
Again, the value of some of those bills, too, as well. Alex, any comments?
Well, you need to remember that the first thing that Barack Obama did upon his inauguration, within days after having been inaugurated, he violated the Hyde Amendment and appropriated federal money for abortions. To me, that was a flagrant disregard, not only for the rule of law, but again for life. And the family has broken down. There in the early states, there could only be, quote, crimes against nature when there was a belief that there was a natural law. Now, one of the things that I say when I debate at colleges or speak to groups that are hostile to belief in a biblical worldview, which seems to be very frequently, I'll say, look, if you want to engage in immoral acts, you can do that. I'm sorry, and I care about the souls and lives of people, and so I don't want people to do things that are immoral. But here in America, if you want to do immoral things, you can do that. If you want to be an atheist, you can reject belief in God. But here's the point. Don't tear down the backdrop, the milieu, the moral framework that gives you the freedom to safely live as an atheist or to engage in private perversions. And see, here's what makes this so dangerous. Now, there have always been atheists. There have always been those that struggle with same-sex attraction. There have always been those that would abuse themselves with alcohol or certain activities. But now, deviant behavior has become legitimized every bit as much as moral behavior. And we've got leaders, educators, judges actively working to tear down any last vestige of belief in moral law. And what we have, this is not alarmism, this is not overstating the case, but what we've got in the absence of belief in morality and absolute truth, we've got increasing not only societal chaos, but world chaos.
That's right.
Benjamin Netanyahu is the leader of the free world. Now, Barack Hussein Obama is not the leader of the free world. Benjamin Netanyahu is the leader. By the way, when Obama was running as a candidate, he said, if I'm elected, the world will know that America has changed. Well, the world definitely knows now that America has changed. We can be bullied. We can be cowered into inactivity. And Netanyahu said very famously in the news, he said, the difference between us and the Islamics is, we use our missiles to protect our citizens. They use their citizens to guard their missiles. It's very sad, but it all began with our, for sheer convenience, our rejection of belief in the sacredness of life, and then the legalization of abortion and the elimination of God from the public square and public expressions of religion. And, really, like with Obamacare, that's one of the largest assaults on civil liberties and rights of conscience that our nation has ever seen.
Let me jump in there because we have to take one of our breaks, and I want to continue that. If you'd like to join us, 1-800-351-1212. Also, this week, we've been talking about how important it is for you to join with us.
God greatly used Point of View to reach the last generation with biblical truth, and now He's reaching a new generation through radio and internet technology. The Point of View podcast now has 30,000 downloads each month, 1,000 a day, and the live audio stream has 11,000 streams a month, a third of those from nations around the globe. Now, even though it's still very new, the video live cast of Point of View already has almost 3,000 views in just the last month. And soon you're going to see even more ways that Point of View is using the internet to reach the next generation of listeners and viewers. Exciting things are happening at Point of View, but there is still much that needs to be done. Now, to reach the millennial generation, we have to expand our online presence even further. Please partner with Point of View today. Through your financial support, help restore Christ in our culture. Your gift today will be matched dollar for dollar through our $50,000 Reaching the Next Generation Matching Challenge. Please take a moment right now. Give your online gift at pointofview.net or call us on our toll-free line 800-347-5151. This opportunity expires September 15th. That's coming right up, so do not hesitate. Go to pointofview.net, make your online donation, or call us today at 800-347-5151.
You are listening to Point of View. For materials offered during the program, please write to Point of View, Post Office Box 30. That's Box 30, Dallas, Texas 75221, zip 75221. Or call our toll-free number, 1-800-347-5151. That's 1-800-347-5151. The opinions expressed on Point of View do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff of this station. Point of View will continue after this. You're listening to Point of View. The opinions expressed on Point of View do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff of this station. And now, here again is Kerby Anderson.
If you'd like to join our conversation today, especially as we're focusing on the loss of moral law and the impact that could have on our nation and the world, love to get your comments. 1-800-351-1212. We see it in the issue of abortion we just talked about. We see it in the issue of same-sex marriage. We'll see it in some other examples. But if you'd like to join us today, perhaps you even have a question on apologetics, how to defend the faith, we'd love to get your comments right now and your questions. 1-800-351-1212. Dr. Alex McFarland with us today as we are talking about some of the material that certainly will be talked about at his Truth for a New Generation conference. And if you've just joined us, you can find out more about that conference on our website, pointofview.net. Alex, let me come back to that, because in one of your press releases, you did talk about that, because you said the society that recognizes natural law, as our Judeo-Christian society has long done, is a society that maximizes liberty for individuals. Within this framework, if someone wishes to practice homosexuality, go ahead, but don't tear down the framework that gives you the freedom to be gay. You could say the same kind of thing. If you're an atheist, great, be an atheist, but don't tear it down, because what you point out, and we've talked about this before, is really liberty that we enjoy today in large part comes from a Judeo-Christian foundation. Christians are to love their enemy, and so in a sense there is freedom for people to disagree in a Christian-based society. You don't find that in the two extremes you talk about. When you have the iron fist of statism, you have to agree with the state, and if you don't, you're penalized. Just ask a baker in Colorado, a photographer in New Mexico, a florist in Washington, a family that was told to rent out their farm to a same-sex couple, or, on the other hand, the iron fist of Sharia law. And it does seem to me that what I want to say to my atheist friends is you should be grateful, even if you don't believe in God, you should be grateful that you live in a society that has sort of a God-based, religious liberty-based philosophy, because you are free to practice that. When the iron fist of statism comes, or if you lived in a country which is a Muslim country, you would not be allowed to practice that atheism, and so be grateful that you do live in a Christian nation.
Absolutely. Well said. I've said to my friend David Silverman, president of American Atheist, whom I'll be debating a couple of times in the next year, he said something that, when he sees a cross, that offends him. And I said, well, you know what? To see a cross publicly displayed, or a manger scene, or the Decalogue, you might find that a bitter pill to swallow. But, my friend, that is a less bitter pill than some of the other options out there,
yes,
like a theocratic Sharia culture. But, in 1789, Washington said this, and I want to share this quote to the question of, how much did the Founding Fathers intend religion to play a role in American life. Washington said, if the Constitution, which was framed at the convention over which I had the honor of presiding, if I had ever entertained the slightest apprehension that Constitution would ever hinder the rights of any religious body or ecclesiastical society, I myself certainly would never have signed it. Now, an ecclesiastical society, that's a religious organization. That's a parachurch ministry or a religious agency. And Washington said, hey, if the Constitution, if we had ever entertained the slightest apprehension that it would hinder the religious rights of people, I wouldn't have signed it. But now, think about this. At the time of the founding of this nation, for those that really believe this is a secular nation, at the time of the founding, 5 states had their own state religions. The Northwest Ordinance of 1789 encouraged religion in general. The 1791 First Amendment encouraged religion in general by the Free Exercise Clause, because it said it would not prohibit the free exercise thereof. My home state, Kerby of North Carolina, in 1835 amended the state constitution to say that to be elected to public office, you had to affirm belief in Old and New Testaments and be a Protestant. So many states required belief in God as a precondition for being elected to public office, because, if you want order, you've got to have natural law, and if you want natural law, you've got to have God. And all 50 state constitutions recognize God or the laws of nature, nature's God. They recognize this Judeo-Christian backdrop in their constitutional preambles, if not the state constitutions themselves.
Sure.
So we are overtly, explicitly a biblically theistic nation, but in losing that, we're really losing our order structure and thereby our freedoms.
Let's take some more phone calls. Got a number of calls that have come in, so we'll go to first New Mexico. Jeff, thank you for calling today. You're on with Alex McFarland.
Hello, Kerby. Hello, Dr. McFarland.
Good afternoon.
I think that one of the reasons that we are not able to, or haven't been able to successfully speak to secular culture about this is that we fundamentally misunderstand secular culture's view on this. Secular culture and liberals do have a sense of right and wrong. I think most do have a strong sense of morality. It's just that they don't call it that. They wouldn't use morals. They would say, for example, cheating on a test. Any liberal academic would say, gosh, it's wrong to cheat, and if you plagiarize in my class, you'll get an F. Well, they obviously have a sense of right and wrong about that.
Certainly do.
Even if they don't call it that.
Yeah.
And so when we say to them, you just don't have any values at all, they immediately tune us out.
Right.
We don't reach them. It may make us feel better, but we don't reach them. What we should be doing is instead saying, why is it that we think it's wrong to let children go hungry? Why is it? And so that we can show them that, gosh, they do have a sense of right and wrong. Where does that come from? Well, we have an answer for that, so that we are able to engage them instead of turning them off. I think that's why we're not able to reach people. And I think it's dangerous, potentially, to use natural law to make that argument because, as you know, in the past, people have used natural law to justify some things that were bad. Slavery was justified by some Christians using natural law, and thankfully was defeated by other Christians using revealed law. I think abortion might be another area. Some people would make a natural law argument that for aborting disabled children. Of course, we don't believe that's right. So I think that we need to take an embracing attitude towards the culture, to embrace them and bring them on board instead of pushing them away with this language that we use that is not entirely accurate.
Alex, you spend a fair amount of time debating atheists and interacting with skeptics and things of that nature. How should we go about? Because oftentimes we want to build a bridge, not a barrier, and at the same time we want to make some distinctions. So I think Jeff's raised some very good questions.
Well, the caller makes some good points, and I really appreciate you participating. I was in a debate in Colorado, and we were talking about natural law, and a lady from one of the local humanist organizations came up and was fairly incensed, and she, said, why would you say that an atheist can't do good things? Why would you say that an atheist can't act morally? And I said, well, I didn't say that.
Right. They always accuse us of that, though. That's interesting. Go ahead.
I know, and I thought I had taken fairly great pains to make sure that I was distinguishing between the reality of objective truth and specific individuals and how they may or may not live that truth. And I said, no, an atheist absolutely can do good things, and atheists can act morally. What I'm saying is you don't really have any objective basis for acting morally, and you really don't have an objective basis for condemning, vice and praising virtue. I'm not saying an atheist or a secularist can't do meritorious and virtuous things, but we're on dangerous ground when we, in our quest to have absolute freedom. It's one thing to have liberty, and it's another thing to have what I would call, Kerby, militant autonomy. And in our quest for really a militant autonomy, You can't put any barriers around me. That's come at the expense of God. Katie Royfe on Slate.com wrote this, and this is how the belief in moral law really relates to meaning and purpose. On Slate.com, she said this regarding American universities and just how anything goes. Quote, "It's not the absence of rules exactly, the dizzying sense that we can do whatever we want, but the sudden realization that nothing we do matters at all." You see, here's the thing. We've gotten rid of all rules, but that's come at the expense of God and also at the expense of transcendent purpose.
We'll be right back.
Now, back to Point of View, your listener-supported source for truth.
Dr. Alex McFarland with us for a few more minutes, and if you'd like to join us, 1-800-351-1212. Let's go out to West Texas and our friends in Kingdom Keys Network and KJRT. And Lana, thank you for calling today.
Yes, I got in kind of late listening to the gentleman that's talking. My question is, why do we not use the Constitution, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness to say that abortion is not legal according to the Constitution?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's the Declaration, but yeah, I get your point. Why can't we? And that's a good question, because a lot of people would say whether it's the Declaration of the Constitution, whether it's the Bill of Rights, there are just a lot of things in the Constitution and the previous document, the Declaration, that provide for rights, and certainly the right to life, and yet nevertheless you have the Supreme Court ruling that There is a right to privacy that supersedes the right to life.
Well, I have another comment that the Supreme Court said that if Congress could prove when life begins, that would be null and void. And we have all kinds of medical proof that says life begins at conception.
Sure.
So I don't understand why our Congress does not act upon it. And probably because we don't have enough Christian men and women that would vote for that or get on board for the bill.
Sure. Well, I guess you think of the people we have around this table here. You know, we got Louis Gohmert in on Friday, and we've had Michael Burgess here, and we, of course, have all sorts of individuals that have been in the studio, and not to mention all the members of Congress we've interviewed. But, again, part of that problem, Alex, is we don't have enough of those individuals that are looking at that from a biblical perspective, or even, as you pointed out here, even if you want to broaden it to a natural law perspective. But if we did, I think a human life amendment or a finding by Congress could really begin to challenge the Supreme Court ruling in 1973.
The caller makes a great point because, you know, when the Declaration talks about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the rights of liberty and the pursuit of happiness mean nothing if they're not first preceded by the right to life. So I agree. Every one of the babies that have been aborted, they had besides their God-given life itself, their constitutional rights violated. And let me say this, Kerby. We really, as a church, we need to pray for an awakening. And that might sound naive and, you know, childlike, but we're in a spiritual battle. We really are. And I think our only hope, our hope is in godly families. Our hope is in moms and dads that love Christ and truth and implant a biblical worldview in the lives of their children. And our hope is in good, strong churches with courageous leadership that lovingly but decisively proclaims the truth of God's Word. But we need to pray. We really need to pray. I was on a phone call about a month ago with a couple of individuals, one of whom does a lot of work with the Barna Research Group. And even as anemic as we might seem, they still believe that there are maybe 63 to 68 million truly born-again adults of voting age that really do know the Lord and give the right answers to some questions about kind of spiritual diagnostics. And regarding a life amendment to the Constitution or a restatement, you know, we've got to be registered to vote, and we've got to be willing to vote. And there just might be enough of that remnant. 30 years ago, you know, Jerry Falwell called it the moral majority. Maybe there still is enough of a remnant that know God, care about the future of the country, and would be willing to get involved such that we could, with the help of God, rein in this drift towards secularism. But as we've said, it won't just be secularism. I mean, nature abhors a vacuum. Something will rush in to fill the void left by Christian theism. And what those things might be don't look very appealing.
They certainly don't. You mentioned that certainly Dr. Ronnie Floyd is new president of Southern Baptist Convention, leading the nation right now in a call for prayer and revival and awakening. So we'll probably get him on and talk about those as well. Just before we let you go, again, the Truth for a New Generation this weekend. Want to encourage anybody that would still like to register. You said you had 100 register this morning. Well, let's see if a few listening to Point of View register and show up and get a chance to hear from just an incredible lineup of speakers that you always have each year. And they can find out more by going to our website, pointofview.net, and clicking on the button that says Truth for a New Generation, or just go to truthforanewgeneration.com and you'll find everything that you need to know. So, Alex McFarland, always great to have you on the program with me.
Thank you so much. I applaud the work you do and very honored to be on any time.
I might just mention that recently when I was speaking in my own class, I used that particular book on the 21 very tough questions that your kids will ask about Christianity. I use his resources all the time. So let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to focus on this idea of American exceptionalism. But at the same time, if you've been joining us this week, you are certainly aware of the fact that we've spent some time talking about all the new events that are actually unfolding before our very eyes, a new website that we're going to be premiering very soon, a video series that we're going to be releasing. You probably have already seen our new Livecast. We will be posting very shortly an election site, Pray, Organize, and Vote, POV, for Point of View, and all sorts of other resources. And there's just a great opportunity for you right now to partner with us. So let's, for just a minute, talk about what you can do to help us reach the next generation.
God greatly used Point of View to reach the last generation with biblical truth, and now He's reaching a new generation through radio and internet technology. The Point of View podcast now has 30,000 downloads each month, 1,000 a day, and the live audio stream has 11,000 streams a month, a third of those from nations around the globe. Now, even though it's still very new, the video live cast of Point of View already has almost 3,000 views in just the last month. And soon you're going to see even more ways that Point of View is using the internet to reach the next generation of listeners and viewers. Exciting things are happening at Point of View, but there is still much that needs to be done. Now, to reach the millennial generation, we have to expand our online presence even further. Please partner with Point of View today. Through your financial support, help restore Christ in our culture. Your gift today will be matched dollar for dollar through our $50,000 Reaching the Next Generation Matching Challenge. Please take a moment right now. Give your online gift at pointofview.net or call us on our toll-free line 800-347-5151. This opportunity expires September 15th. That's coming right up, so do not hesitate. Go to pointofview.net, make your online donation, or call us today at 800-347-5151.
A lot of exciting things happening around Point of View right now. We've talked about the unveiling of the new website, which I think is going to be much more user-friendly and certainly millennial-friendly. We, of course, have been talking about the Livecast, and if you don't watch the program, I would encourage you to do so. Today, we don't happen to have guests in studio. One is in South Carolina. The other one is in Australia in our second hour, but many days we have guests in studio. This time last week, for example, we had Kevin Sorbo in studio. We've had June Hunt in studio. This Friday, we will have all sorts of individuals from Debbie Georgatos as well as Louis Gomert and Court Alley. And, of course, oftentimes on a Friday, we have Penna Dexter and Kelly Shackelford. So certainly you can watch that. And if you don't have a chance to hear the program, we, of course, have our podcast. 30,000 downloads every month, and that is increasing more and more. And interestingly enough, 10% of all those downloads come from outside of the country. When I look down the list, I'm just amazed at countries that are, in a sense, in the Muslim world, countries that where communism is still practiced, individuals listening to this program, no doubt benefiting from some of the things that we're sharing with them as well. So I'm incredibly encouraged and enthusiastic, and really without hesitation ask you to join with us. We have a match on the table, $50,000. That means your gift is matched dollar for dollar. And if you have never given to Point of View, make this your first gift to us. If you've given before, your special gift right now would be greatly appreciated. That. And again, we are encouraging you to visit the website, pointofview.net. Of course, the number, 1-800-347-5151, 1-800-347-5151. We'll take a break, come back and talk about American exceptionalism. That coming up right after this.
Across the nation, this is Point of View. For materials offered during the broadcast, please write to Point of View, Post Office Box 30. That's Box 30, Dallas, Texas 75221. Zip 75221. Or call our toll-free number 1-800-347-5151. Point of View will continue after this.
Point of View is produced by Point of View Ministries and is supported by your generous tax-deductible contributions.
I just thank God for y'all. I listen to you every day, truly. I wanted to thank y'all for everything you do each day to inform Christian families and our community about the things we can do, and just the way you're so informative. I listen to you daily and love you guys and appreciate you so much.
God bless you, Kerby, for keeping this show so on track and for the decades of wonderful help to this nation that Point of View has been. We're all big fans of your work, and we pray that God will just prosper it.
As a Christian, over the years that I've followed this program, I am constantly challenged to be on guard and to evaluate what's going on. And if for no other reason, to protect the caliber and the truth of your programming, I need to participate and to back your program financially to ensure that the truth stays out there for people to hear, to view, and to be a part of.
This is Point of View Radio.
Hi, this is Kerby Anderson. You know, each day we take on the tough issues and provide a biblical perspective to them. The topics we cover are wide-ranging. Apologetics, theology, prophecy, creation and evolution, intelligent design, marriage, family, child-rearing, the millennial generation, trends in society, politics, economics, business, religious liberty, the Constitution, public policy, foreign policy, military policy, tensions in the Middle East, abortion, homosexuality, pornography, sexual ethics, media, technology, history, and America's godly heritage. We talk about anything that affects your faith, your family, or your freedom. So don't go anywhere, because Point of View continues right now.
Across America, live. This is Point of View. And now, Kerby Anderson.
Second hour we had planned, and hopefully still will be able to make connection with Nick Adams. He is the author of the new book, The American Boomerang. He's also written one of the articles that we've posted today, A Major Nation Has Zero Illegals Coming In. And he's from Australia. We will spend some time connecting up with him in Australia. Also, for those of you that get Whistleblower, his most recent article in Whistleblower, America's Secret Weapon, what Eisenhower called our country's most powerful resource in peace and war, fits very well with the conversation we had in the first hour here with Dr. Alex McFarland, in which Nick Adams, even though he's from Australia, has a great appreciation for America and American exceptionalism. Quotes from John Adams, who said he wasn't joking when he said that the Constitution was designed for a moral and religious people that is wholly inadequate for any other. So as we connect up with Nick Adams, we'll certainly bring him to the microphone and get a chance to hear from him down under. But before we do that, one of the callers that could not get through because we ran out of time was asking the question, when we're talking about this issue of abortion, why don't we at least bring up some of what you might call common sense arguments, even if people deny the morality of it? Certainly think about the impact that abortion has had on things like Social Security and entitlements. I think that's a very good argument. Oftentimes, I think what we need to do is make what I call arguments from common grace. Common grace means that whether you believe in biblical revelation or not, you actually see the value of this from a practical point of view. And so I think that making cases on, for example, look at the devastation to our country. We had a baby boom and then we had a baby bust, Social Security. That's a pretty good argument. And so I would certainly agree with that. And for those of you that are looking for maybe a biblical justification, I might just say, look at the Apostle Paul. When he's in Acts 13, he's in a synagogue. What can he assume? Well, everybody's a Christian, or at least everybody's a Jew, I should say. But nobody's a Christian, obviously. But everybody's Jewish. Everybody believes in an Old Testament. They are in a synagogue. They believe in a coming Messiah. So in a sense, he just sort of hits the ground running. In Acts 17, when he's in the Areopagus, we see that there he's at Mars Hill. He's dealing with people that aren't Jewish. They have not read the Old Testament. They don't believe in one true God. They don't know the Messiah. He sort of has to back up and use arguments for the existence of God. And so in some respects, I think we would have to acknowledge that our culture today is more of an Acts 17 kind of culture than it is an Acts 13 kind of culture. And so there is real value in using some of those arguments of common grace. Looks like we've now made our connection with Nick Adams. He is a conservative Australian speaker, lecturer, best-selling author, and media commentator, probably best known for his work in the field of American exceptionalism. He has been an advocate of Christian leadership, been involved in the culture wars. For those of you in the state of Texas, he was actually appointed as an honorary Texan by Governor Rick Perry, has both an undergraduate and postgraduate degrees from the University of Sydney, and joins us now by phone. Nick Adams, thank you for joining us today here on Point of View.
G'day, Kerby. Thank you so much for having me, sir. It's a great honor.
We have a couple of things we'd love to talk to you about. Obviously, your new book, The American Boomerang. But one of the things I thought would be really attention-grabbing for just a minute was a piece that you had in WorldNet Daily, Major Nation Has Zero Illegals Coming In. And you point out, being from Australia and having even served in the government there at one time, that Australia used to have a problem with illegal immigration. You say it doesn't anymore. Are there some lessons we can learn in America about what you did in Australia?
Well, I think so, Kerby. When we had a Conservative government in power between 2001 and 2007, we didn't have any problems because we had a really strict border policy. And when the equivalent of the Democrats came in to office, they changed everything, Kerby. And they said that a strict border protection policy was inhumane, it was immoral, it was wrong, it didn't really speak to our values of tolerance, and so they dismantled what was a very effective policy, and effectively we really had open borders. So what happened? Well, all hell broke loose. We had over 800 boats coming from Southeast Asian countries. We had over 1,200 people tragically drown at sea, trying to make that perilous journey over the high seas. The budget blew out by $10 billion. It was an absolute nightmare. Not only were the policies ineffective, they were killing people. And this weighed very heavily on the Australian conscience. And everyone said, look, this just can't happen. We don't know who these people are. We don't know who's coming in. We haven't vetted them. We don't want any more Western haters in our country. And we need to make sure that we determine who comes into this country and the circumstances under which they come. And so basically what happened was we had another election, and that election really was fought on this major issue, and the Australian people resoundingly voted for a new Conservative government to come in and implement the pre-existing border protection policy. And that's been enormously effective, Kerby. We haven't had one illegal immigrant to Australia now in over 8 months.
Let's talk about that for just a minute, because what you had for a while there is that the boats didn't stop. I mean, they were still in the process of coming because they didn't see a change in policy, or maybe they didn't believe it. So what happened is that when somebody that arrived there illegally, they really had two options. One, they said, you arrived in Australia illegally. As a result, you'll never get to stay here. You'll never get to be an Australian. So you have two options. We will take you to a processing center, or you will wait in detention for your asylum application to be processed, or we'll fly you home for free. So for a while, even now maybe it's working, but even in that transition period, you made it very clear that the policy was going to be implemented in an objective and hopefully compassionate way. And that is what I think ultimately sends the signal back to the others that would get in a boat and come. To use our example, not as many people come here by boat, although some do. I certainly want to acknowledge that. Others maybe are making the trek right now, but at first, even if you change the policy, you wouldn't get it maybe changed overnight. But sooner or later, the signal would be sent back, and they would see the futility of trying to walk their way into America or trying to catch a train to get them close to America. And so that, I think, illustrates why policies really do matter.
That's exactly right, Kerby. Policies do matter because they do send a message, and it's all about how you want to be perceived. And we see that weakness invites aggression, and weakness usually invites problems. And that's exactly what we had when we went from being strong to weak, and that's one of the reasons why I think America, and indeed the world on a larger scale right now, is going through so many problems. You have to be strong, and there is nothing more moral than protecting one's population. There is nothing more moral than being very clear that borders matter and that sovereignty matters. So, you know, it's one of those things that I think America really can learn from Australia. That southern border needs to be closed. It needs to be closed because the deaths of people that are trying to come to America needs to be stopped.
We'll take a break and be back with more right after this.
The Point of View Commentary with Kerby Anderson.
Should we as Christians be hopeful about the future? We should if we believe that God is still in control of the universe. Certainly we see many signs of decline and decay. Christians have been here before, and we need to remember that when the gospel is lived out in practice, it is the most powerful force in history, both by individuals and for societies. In his new book, Renaissance, Os Guinness reminds us that it is still possible for society to have redemption and renewal. The Christian faith is still relevant in our global world, and the key is for the people of God to be part of a movement that is led by the Spirit of God, which involves the people of God returning to the ways of God. He says we are truly at an Augustinian moment. Augustine died in North Africa with the Vandals at the gate. The Roman Empire was coming to an end of 800 years of dominance. We're living in a world where 500 years of Western dominance and Christian influence seem to be coming to an end. He believes we have two global tasks. First, to prepare the global South for the challenges they will face from the forces of development and modernization. The West has been through this, so we can warn them of the dangers. Second, we need to win back the Western world to Jesus. To be effective, we will have to do three things: engagement, discernment, and courage. We need to be engaged in society, in the world, but not of it. We also need great discernment and to act with courage. He believes the challenge will be to trust in God and His gospel and move out confidently into the world, living and working for a new Christian renaissance, and thus challenge the darkness with the hope of the Christian faith. He closes the book with an evangelical manifesto that provides specific action items related to how we should act and how we should view the world around us. Right thinking and right behavior will be key if we are to be faithful Christians in this century. I'm Kerby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
You're listening to Point of View, your listener-supported source for truth.
Privileged to have with us today Nick Adams, who actually we are talking to while he is in Australia. He is an Australian speaker and author of two earlier books, America the Greatest Good, and its 2012 sequel, Exceptional America, A Message of Hope from a Modern-Day de Tocqueville. We also have in front of us now a book that just has come out, The American Boomerang, How the World's Greatest Turnaround Nation Will Do It Again. And I might point you to the issue, the most current issue of Whistleblower, because in that one he calls it America's secret weapon, what Eisenhower called our country's most powerful resource in peace and war. And in the first hour today, Nick, we spent some time talking with Alex McFarland, and one of the things we talked about is, even to our atheist friends, we say, if you want to practice your atheism, fine, but be grateful you live in a country that has a Judeo-Christian base. Because it has a Judeo-Christian base, it has a belief in tolerance and pluralism and acceptance, and as a result, that is one that gives you the freedom to practice your atheism or to believe whatever you want. When you turn away from that Judeo-Christian base, you end up either with the iron fist of statism or the iron fist of Sharia. And that really is sort of your argument, that this Christian foundation for America, which you say is something that is far beyond what you see perhaps in any other country. You say, I'm unable to imagine a land with a greater priority or passion for Christ. And that, I think, is what has given us the greatest freedom that we enjoy. Your thoughts?
I would agree with you, Kerby. Judeo-Christian values are at the absolute bedrock of American success, and it's only through those values that America has managed to be a country unlike any that we have ever witnessed in 5,000 years of recorded human history. If you have a look at the things that make America special, it's the idea that government needs to be limited so that man can thrive. And that really is a Christian idea. And what's so pivotal, I think, to everything is that America derives its strength from its faith. It derives its goodness from its faith. It derives its gratitude from its faith. It derives its optimism from its faith. And so, really, the faith is really at the center of the American exceptionalism web. And one of the reasons why America is declining and slipping and really collapsing in its role in the world right now is because that faith has been under attack for so long. The good news, though, and the reason why I have hope, Kerby, is that if you compare America to the rest of the world, America still is by far and away the most religious country in the world. 49%, Pew Research reveals, of Americans identify as going to church at least once a week. Now, going to church doesn't make you automatically a Christian, but it's a pretty good start. And compare that to the rest of the Western world, even America's English-speaking cousins like Australia and Canada and New Zealand and England, and the rate there is between 7 and 15% of people identifying as going to church at least once a week. So that's a massive difference. And that's why it's really now the time for Christians to be vocal in their love of America and vocal in saying that Christianity lies at the heart of American achievement, innovation, and success.
Let me, if I can, for just a minute, maybe come back to an earlier book where they refer to you as a modern-day de Tocqueville. And I would think that some of our listeners might not know about Alexis de Tocqueville very much, but they might have learned something if they went to the latest Dinesh D'Souza movie, because it talks about that. But in 1831, you have a Frenchman who came to America to study Americans, really the prison system, but he basically ended up studying America, wrote, of course, what later came to be known as Democracy in America. And he was really struck by how different America was from France. And a lot of that had to do with our faith. A lot of it had to do with our entrepreneurial spirit. You even have a chapter here where you talk about the cowboy spirit and this idea. But there are some very unique things about America. And since you have traveled America about the same period of time, coming from another country, Australia, I'd love to know why you believe America is exceptional, why you would agree with de Tocqueville, because he was writing in the 19th century, you're writing in the 21st century. What did you find?
Well, I found that the country that had fascinated me for as long as I can possibly remember, Kerby, was a land of unparalleled energy, creativity, vibrancy. It's one of those things, I mean, America is a place that really excites certain visitors. Some people are born with a burning for America, and I was one of them. And I wanted to come to this place that was so obviously different to Europe. Both my parents have European roots, and I was born and raised in Australia, and I've had the great fortune of spending lots of time overseas and going all around the world. And America was a place that was very different. Its founding was different, its history was different, its people and its culture were different. I found that people were far more individualistic, far more self-reliant, far more religious, as we've spoken about, far more prepared to take risks, far more prepared to enjoy life, whether life was necessarily smooth or not. And I felt that this was something that really had to be explored in great detail, really had to be examined, because I think that the American experiment is the experiment of humanity. It was an improbable experiment, Kerby, way back when it was launched, and it remains just as improbable today. And I really think that America is the model to which every nation should and must aspire.
Let's take a break, and we'll continue to monitor that phone call, which we're making to Australia. Let me just mention that if you're interested in this book, The American Boomerang, you can probably find it in your local bookstore, WND Books. But again, recognizing that not all books carry these kinds of books, we have it in our Point of View store. It has really been able to attract tremendous attention. Governor Mike Huckabee says it's a remarkable book, an intensive look into the American soul and American psyche. It has been endorsed by Dr. Ben Carson, Glenn Beck, Dick Morris, Dennis Prager, to mention just a few. And so if you find yourself wanting a little more information about him, we have information to find on our website, Nick Adams. You can go to certainly nickadamsinamerica.com, or we have a link to it there. And, of course, you can get the book there as well. We have an article about the book, which is kind of just a short interview that he had done on it so that you can find out a little bit more. And, of course, we have information about him and the book on our website, pointofview.net. Just before we take a break, though, as we have been talking about, we really do want to develop as much technology as we possibly can to reach the next generation. Here again is a reminder about what we're doing behind the scenes.
God greatly used Point of View to reach the last generation with biblical truth, and now He's reaching a new generation through radio and internet technology. The Point of View podcast now has 30,000 downloads each month, 1,000 a day, and the live audio stream has 11,000 streams a month, a third of those from nations around the globe. Now, even though it's still very new, the video live cast of Point of View already has almost 3,000 views in just the last month. And soon you're going to see even more ways that Point of View is using the internet to reach the next generation of listeners and viewers. Exciting things are happening at Point of View, but there is still much that needs to be done. Now, to reach the millennial generation, we have to expand our online presence even further. Please partner with Point of View today. Through your financial support, help restore Christ in our culture. Your gift today will be matched dollar for dollar through our $50,000 Reaching the Next Generation Matching Challenge. Please take a moment right now. Give your online gift at pointofview.net or call us on our toll-free line 800-347-5151. This opportunity expires September 15th. That's coming right up, so do not hesitate. Go to pointofview.net, make your online donation, or call us today at 800-347-5151.
Thanks, Bob. Just before we take a break, let me again encourage you to visit our website. As you go there, you'll find out more about this book, The American Boomerang. You'll be able to, of course, if you would like to do so, sign up and receive our material that we send out every day, our show threads, my daily commentary, and much, much more. We, of course, have the live cast so that you can watch the program. We have the podcast. You can listen to it later. And as you have just heard, all the things we're doing in social media to reach out to the next generation, to take some of the content here and to put it in other formats to reach out to others. And so we certainly do encourage you, especially right now where we have a match on the table, $1 for $1. That means your gift is doubled. So again, go to the website, pointofview.net. You can find out more about this ministry, and you can support us by clicking on that button. We'll be back with Nick Adams right after this.
You are listening to Point of View. For materials offered during the program, please write to Point of View, Post Office Box 30. That's Box 30, Dallas, Texas 75221, zip 75221. Or call our toll-free number, 1-800-347-5151. That's 1-800-347-5151. The opinions expressed on Point of View do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff of this station. Point of View will continue after this. listening to Point of View. The opinions expressed on Point of View do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff of this station. And now, here again is Kerby Anderson.
Final half hour, Nick Adams with us. If you'd like to join us, 1-800-351-1212. The book is entitled The American Boomerang, How the World's Greatest Turnaround Nation Will Do It Again. And I might mention the foreword by Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. And if you go to his website, nickadamsinamerica.com, you will see that it's also endorsed by Chuck Norris and others, and you can also win an authentic autographed boomerang from Australia. So lots of things that you can find on his website, and certainly the book will be of encouragement to you. So if you'd like to join our conversation today, 1-800-351-1212, talking with an Australian that certainly believes in American exceptionalism, and I think you will be encouraged by the book and by the interview that we're doing with him right now. Let me, if I can, Nick, for just a minute, though, talk about two sections in your book. One, you talk about the fact that there's a war on America. Then a bit later, you say there's a war on Christianity. Let's take each one individually. This idea of a war on America, as an outsider looking at America, where do you see that war taking us, and why are you so optimistic that America can turn itself around?
Well, the best and only answer to making a better world, Kerby, is the American value system. Nothing approaches the American value system as humanity's best hope. And the fact is that America has not, the fact that America has not always lived up to its promise or any of its noblest values proves only that Americans are flawed, not that American values are not better than any other value systems. Anti-Americanism frustrates me. The decline of America terrifies me. I don't want America to encourage mediocrity or dependence. And silence in this case is not golden, it's yellow. The mainstream media in this country are running a protection racket for the anti-American agenda. And in my view, Kerby, quite frankly, it's nothing short of treasonous. Anti-Americanism is a central tenet of the left, and the moral and intellectual defects of leftism stand in complete contrast to American values and the American way of life. So that's what I speak about when I talk about this war on America. There is a war on America because the left and Islam both don't get their objectives easily attained because of America. So therefore, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and that's why these two most unlikely and certainly most unholy partners come together to defeat America. And sadly, the left have been able to infiltrate our schools, our universities, and our media, and have such a cultural influence that anti-Americanism now, sadly, in America, but also right around the world, is rampant. There is this instinct to blame America and the West first. No one is teaching the next generation of Americans what constitutes the American value system, let alone what is superior or even simply unique about it. American children are being overwhelmingly educated, Kerby, by people who believe in European, not American values.
Right.
The American way can only prevail if Americans believe in it. And, if the U.S. were a tooth, the left would be rooting for the cavity. It really is a very sad state of affairs, and it's why I think everyone needs to stand up to protect and defend America, because let's just think for 1 second what would happen if there were no America. Terror, tyranny, and torture would reign. Individual liberty would be gradually extinguished. There would likely be a nuclear war in the Middle East waged by Iran and Israel. Taiwan would be captured by China. Indonesia might make a move on Australia. Russia would attempt to rebuild the Soviet Empire. North Korea would invade South Korea. Tyrants in Africa would be emboldened. Terrorists would have nothing holding them back. It is truly unconscionable, and it's why I say in my book that America needs to stand up, and people that love freedom anywhere and everywhere. It doesn't matter whether you live in America, you were born in America, or if you've even ever visited America. It is in the interest of every single person on Team World that America be strong and that America be in a position to exercise leadership. Why am I hopeful? I'm hopeful because a lot of the problems that currently afflict America, Kerby, are policy ones.
Right.
And policy ones can be reversed. I think America needs to unite behind a consensus-inspiring agenda. It's not going to be easy to do, but in my book I outline a 10-point plan. End the waste, pay back the debt, limit the government, hammer political correctness, protect the borders, preserve Judeo-Christian traditions, end the culture of entitlement, cut taxes, exercise loyalty to the Constitution, and keep the peace through unquestioned military advantage. That's the American boomerang. That's it. If you do all of that, you will forge a new generation of Americans that guarantees the American dream for another 200 years at least. And that's the best thing that can happen, not just for America, but for the entire world.
I might just mention that in some of the latter chapters, Chapter 12, you have an almost treasonous culture war, Chapter 13, radical Islam, and certainly, again, just an illustration of some of the threats that we face. But I guess it would be fair to say we've been here before, and it's certainly something that we need deep courage and conviction to bring about a change that needs to take place. But you've given us a very good list of what the world would be like without America. And also, of course, we can see what, in terms of what we need to do. Just before we take another break, I wanted to pick up that other idea. Not only is there a war on America, but you say there's a war on the Christian faith. And it seems to me that's another very important issue that we talk about so often here on Point of View, that when it comes to this issue of religious liberty, we are losing that, and that's why we need to support organizations that are wanting to change some of those policies. In other cases, find various candidates who will be involved in making sure that the right judges are in places of authority, and then most importantly, also supporting these organizations that are fighting for religious liberty in our courts. But again, we see that attack on our faith is coming from the popular culture, it's coming from the political culture, and we need to stand up as well.
It is, and contrary to what at least two generations of Americans have been taught, Kerby, America was designed to be a religious, that is, a God-based country, and from its inception, it was. Christianity has been a major force for good, most especially, and not only, in its American incarnation. The American experiment in liberty was inconceivable to the founders, and should be inconceivable to everyone today. Without God and without God-based morality teaching religion, there is no American experiment. So, you know, it was Christianity in the Western world that provided the impetus or the backdrop for nearly all the great artistic, literary, political, economic, and even scientific advances of the West. When religion dies, creativity begins to die. And feminism, and environmentalism, and socialism, they become the substitute religions, which is what we've seen. I think in America, the modern left's war against religion can be said to have begun with the 1962 U.S. Supreme Court ruling that all school prayer is unconstitutional. To rule such a prayer unconstitutional was truly an expression, I think, of secular extremism. And given the indispensable role that religion has played in American history in forming character, the decline of religion has led to what one would expect, the deterioration of the moral character of many Americans. And the ostensible reason for left-wing opposition to religious standards governing people's lives in America has been to protect the, quote, separation of church and state, a phrase found in no official documentation of the U.S., not in the Constitution, or the Declaration of Independence, or the Bill of Rights. The real reason for the left's war against religion, especially Christianity, are that leftism has always been an anti-religious doctrine.
Wow. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll spend just a few more minutes talking about his 15-point plan for an American Renaissance. And if you would like to join us, don't know if we'll have a lot of time, but certainly we can get your comments another day. But if you want to try to slip in a phone call real quickly, might be able to take one. We are privileged to have with us for just a little bit longer Nick Adams, who is in Australia. It's a long-distance phone call today, but we thought you would enjoy, first of all, hearing about his book, The American Boomerang, as well as his earlier books, America the Greatest Good and Exceptional America, A Message of Hope from a Modern-Day de Tocqueville. We've also today posted a couple of things. First of all, his piece on how Australia got to the point where illegal immigration was no longer a problem, and then an interview that he did on this book. It's all available at our website, pointofview.net. We'll come back right after these important messages.
Now, back to Point of View, your listener-supported source for truth.
Continue our conversation today with Nick Adams as we talk about his book, The American Boomerang, and some other resources that we certainly do commend to you. I might just mention that tomorrow, first hour, we're going to spend some time talking about home education. Drew Dankworth is with us of Texas Home Educators, and I think this will be an opportunity for those of you that are already homeschooling to get some encouragement. For those of you that have been thinking about it or wondering whether or not that might be an idea for you to implement in your home, I think you'll appreciate that. Second hour today, we'll spend just a little bit of time talking with Travis Weber. He is with the Family Research Council. As a matter of fact, he's the director of their Center for Religious Liberty. Going to be talking about some of the cases we just sort of mentioned in passing here, whether it's bridal groups that are actually being challenged by human rights organizations because they would not provide services for a same-sex wedding. Of course, we're going to go back to that very famous case now in New York where this couple was told, the Giffords were told that they had to have a lesbian wedding in their home. They live on the second and third floor. They were having to be forced to actually provide that lesbian wedding in the first floor. Because they did not do so, they had to pay $10,000 to the New York Human Rights Commission and $1,500 apiece to each one of the lesbian women, a total of $13,000. So we'll be talking with him and getting a better perspective on some of these religious liberty issues we've been talking about with Nick Adams. Nick, just before we also spend some time talking about what's on your website, let's talk about this plan for an American Renaissance. My commentary today is based on the Os Guinness book, Renaissance. We did an interview with him last week, and he was talking about the Renaissance of the West. You're talking about an American Renaissance, the idea of an American boomerang. It seems to me that there are some things we can and should do if, indeed, America is to turn itself around.
Definitely, Kerby. Look, the solutions to America are in the hearts of Americans, not the government. And I think that's why we really need to lay the axe at the root of the tree. I mean, I think America needs to raise children who are grateful in general and grateful to be American in particular, who don't complain much, who learn to handle losing, and who are guided by values, not feelings. The answer to every problem we confront is not education. The answer to every problem we confront is dependent upon individuals' values, character development, moral education, wisdom, and common sense. It's not education per se, unless its purposes are instruction, passing on the wisdom of the ages, and developing common sense. And since the left took over education, these, quite simply, Kerby, haven't been taught. There really are two Americas, a conservative America and a liberal America. The left and right do not have the same ends, and therefore unity is impossible. Right and left differ in their visions of America, not just in having different roads. For these and other reasons, I think calls for unity among Americans that transcend left and right are either naive or disingenuous. I mean, America will be united only when the great majority affirm either left-wing or conservative values. And that's why I talk about the need for a consensus-inspiring leader to emerge, a president, and a consensus-inspiring agenda of those very critical things: ending the waste, paying back the debt, limiting the government, hammering political correctness, protecting the borders, preserving Judeo-Christian traditions, ending the culture of entitlement, cutting taxes, exercising loyalty to the Constitution, and keeping the peace through unquestioned military advantage. Economically, I mean, that's a big issue, Kerby. If you'd started a business the day that Jesus was born and lost $1 million every year, you'd still be in better financial shape than the American government.
That's true. Yeah, to the point where you could probably lose $1 billion a week and still be better off, but not quite that bad. But I think it's a good illustration of, indeed, what we are dealing with in terms of the level of indebtedness. And that, to me, looms very large. I think I'm concerned about two issues, Nick, and I think you probably would agree. One is our financial indebtedness, or our, if you will, financial bankruptcy. The other is our kind of cultural and spiritual bankruptcy. But I'm not ready to give up on America. I know that you're not. And the fact that you're writing books dealing with American exceptionalism as an Australian is encouraging. And I noticed that in one of the articles we've posted here, somebody said, well, you're an Australian. Why do you care what happens to Australia? But I think you really articulated the point. If we lose America, even in this isolated continent of Australia, you would feel the repercussions of it, wouldn't you?
You know, Kerby, I've been doing what I've been doing in terms of trying to encourage Americans, getting them to feel relaxed and comfortable about their role in the world. I've been doing this now for 3 or 4 years, and I'm a young man, but I can tell you that I don't need to articulate the point anymore. It's happening real time in our world.
Yes.
Where America has been weak and has been absent, we can see what happens in the world. China, Russia, and ISIS are advancing. And they're advancing because we don't have a strong America. We have a president that's sought to dismantle the American military and retreat in the world, a president who seeks to minimize American exceptionalism on the world stage, when really it should be maximized. So this has gone from theory and looking back at history and hypothesis to we have the proof. We can see the whole world is aflame right now. And it's precisely because of a weak America. If America had been strong, if we had a president in there that was strong, the entire world would be a much safer and less dangerous place. But because it hasn't been, we now have problems that are just unconscionable. We have evil perpetrating things that make us just absolutely shocked and horrified. And so it's in the interest of everyone, everywhere. I think it's the great moral imperative of our time to protect, defend, and strengthen America, because with America goes the world. And one last thing, let me just say about Texas, because I love Texas, and you're right, Governor Perry did appoint me an honorary Texan. Texas is to America what America is to the world. It truly is the light that people need to look to and the model that people need to turn to whenever they need guidance. And if only right now America had some Texas spirit, then the world would be an entirely different place.
Well, again, the book is entitled The American Boomerang. As you go to his website, Nick Adams in America, it's even got a section on Texas as well as a gallery, achievements, and much more. So, Nick, thank you so very much for joining us today here on Point of View.
Absolute pleasure, Kerby. I'll come back anytime. Thank you.
Love to do so. Again, an Australian looking at our country with a set of eyes that we certainly need to hear about and to see through his eyes. Just before we go, let's one more time talk about how we are reaching the next generation.
God greatly used Point of View to reach the last generation with biblical truth, and now He's reaching a new generation through radio and internet technology. The Point of View podcast now has 30,000 downloads each month, 1,000 a day, and the live audio stream has 11,000 streams a month, a third of those from nations around the globe. Now, even though it's still very new, the video live cast of Point of View already has almost 3,000 views in just the last month. And soon you're going to see even more ways that Point of View is using the internet to reach the next generation of listeners and viewers. Exciting things are happening at Point of View, but there is still much that needs to be done. Now, to reach the millennial generation, we have to expand our online presence even further. Please partner with Point of View today. Through your financial support, help restore Christ in our culture. Your gift today will be matched dollar for dollar through our $50,000 Reaching the Next Generation Matching Challenge. Please take a moment right now. Give your online gift at pointofview.net or call us on our toll-free line 800-347-5151. This opportunity expires September 15th. That's coming right up, so do not hesitate. Go to pointofview.net, make your online donation, or call us today at 800-347-5151.
That's all we have for today. Certainly want to encourage you to visit our website, pointofview.net, or as we leave, this is certainly an opportunity for you to give us a call, 1-800-347-5151. I want to thank Andrew, Catherine, and Chris. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
You have been listening to Point of View. For materials offered on the program, please write to Point of View, Post Office Box 30. That's Box 30, Dallas, Texas 75221. Zip 75221. Or call our toll-free number, 1-800-347-5151. That's 1-800-347-5151. 888-858-5151.
Point of View is produced by Point of View Ministries and is supported by your generous tax-deductible contributions.